Most creators think growth comes from going viral. Gabby built a full-time business by doing the opposite. In this episode, she shares how she went from posting for years with almost no results to building a massive audience and turning YouTube into a real business. We also talk about audience psychology, niching down, and why authenticity beats perfection. Hi, Gabby. Thank you so much for doing this. And for people discovering you for the first time, how would you describe what you do today?
Okay, first off, if we didn't have a recording issue, it really wouldn't be YouTube.
Yes.
This happens all the time. Hi everyone, my name is Gabby. My YouTube channel is called Glam Girl Gabby, and I make hair and makeup content, so I'm a beauty creator.
And when did you first get started on YouTube, and what actually pushed you to creating your first video?
Yeah, I started about 7 years ago. And the reason that I started making content was to actually help my clients. Back then, I was working on set, I was doing TV and film and fashion editorial, runway. I was working with a lot of like commercial clients. And then I also had a small salon, a studio where I had full-time hair clients. I did cuts and colors, styling. And I also had an on-location bridal business where I had quite a big team and we went on location to get brides and bridesmaids, mothers of the brides, and everyone else ready for wedding days. So, something that kept coming up over and over again is that these clients of mine were asking me how I was able to achieve the results that I was achieving with them in both hair and makeup, how they could recreate that from home. And so I was getting texts all day, all the time, every day. Gabby, when you do my curls, they last for 3 days. When I do my curls, they last for 2 hours. Like, what are you doing differently than I'm doing? Because I'm watching you in the mirror and I'm recreating it, but it's not working. And so I was constantly trying to text these clients instructions on what to use, how to do it, how long to keep that iron in for, all this stuff. But then I quickly realized that something like beauty is visual. And so you need the words and the visuals to go together so that you can properly explain something and have someone understand. So I initially started making videos to help my clients get better results from home. So when they would text me the same question over and over again, multiple different people, I could send them over to a video and they could learn it through the video and get better results. And so it started as like a guide or a resource for clients, and then it took off and turned into this whole other thing. And now I am a full-time creator and I do this.
And a lot of people, they want to become creators, but it's so hard because it's hard to manage having, your professional life and then your personal life and then actually finding some time to create content. How did you manage that?
This is such a tricky question, and it's something that creators talk about a lot because when you first start creating, you're not making income. So you can't really justify taking time away from your work time to work on content. But content, if you want to create it and be competitive in the space, it really has to be really well done, right? You can't just throw stuff up like you used to be able to back in 2014 or 2015. You are competing against a lot of really great creators. So you have to make really good quality, high quality content. And that takes time. And it takes a lot of time. And so, it's hard for me to give advice because I've had so many people in my life try to do it and quit. And I also completely understand why they would quit because it is so challenging. But you have to have the type of personality where you're just not willing to not reach the goal and you'll sacrifice whatever you need to sacrifice to get there. For me, I worked 7 days a week already because I had three different businesses that I ran. And I also had two young kids under the age of 4. And I would just, work all day, come home, make them dinner, put them to bed, and then they would go to bed around 7:30 because they were little, and I would start working on the channel, and sometimes I'd work on it from, 8 at night until 4 in the morning, and then wake up at 6 again to get my kids ready for daycare and get ready for work. And that was just a sacrifice I was willing to make, but I wish I could give some flowery answer, but it's not easy. It's really hard at the beginning.
How fast was it for you? Was it something that happened like after one video, or was it something that took years? Did you think about giving up at some point?
It took years. It took years to get there. I never, ever, ever skipped a week. When I started, I told myself I was going to commit, and I became psychotic about it. Like, I There was nothing that could happen in my life that would make me skip a week. And so I posted once a week, every week for an entire year. And in that year, I only got 1,000 subscribers. Then in year two, I got to 10,000 subscribers. So I 10 times my growth, but that was still only 10,000 subscribers in 2 years, staying up all night sometimes to get these videos done and not sleeping. It was a huge sacrifice for very little reward. I made like no money. And then I started to really understand how YouTube worked. And I felt like on year two, it all kind of clicked. And it's like everything that was a mystery started to make sense. All the puzzle pieces started to fit. And I started creating more strategically and with more intention. And that year, in like 4 or 5 months, I went from 10,000 to 100,000. And my life completely changed after I hit 100,000. That was the turning point for sure.
Is it the moment that you actually started making money on YouTube?
I was making money before, but it was the moment where I started making substantial income because that's when brands started to see me and see the influence that I had and the views that I was getting and started reaching out and offering. Brands pay a lot when you are comparing it to a normal job.
Yes.
I'm used to it now because it's been so many years, but back then I was like, you'll pay me what to talk about this for how many seconds? Like it was insane. Like it's like a month
Yeah.
worth of working on set. I would make in like 2 hours. It was really crazy, and that allowed me to close my bridal business. I ended up closing down my salon. I ended up, leaving all my onset work and dedicating because every day that I was away from creating content, I was losing money. Whereas before it was the opposite, creating
Yeah.
content was taking away from my income. It became where when I was doing my old work, it was taking away from my income. And so it was an evolution.
How much of it do you think is strategy and luck?
I don't think there's any luck at all. I think it's 100% strategy.
And is there any strategy that you feel like it's not out there, but you've noticed from all this time that you've been doing this that you could share?
Yeah, so there isn't like this secret thing, click this button or use this hashtag. There's nothing like that. The strategy is understanding your core audience demographic so well that you're like their psychologist. You know their fears, you know their worries, you know what triggers them, you know what's going to make them comment, you know what's going to make them click, you know how to speak to them in a way that it feels like you really know them and you can connect with them. Understanding psychology and human behavior is like the secret sauce of becoming a good YouTuber.
And looking back from like the latest video that you posted to your first video and comparing it, what have you changed? Is there anything that you've learned that now it's like something that you always do and that back then you had no idea?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that back then I created for me and it came from a place of vanity, like wanting to look beautiful on camera and like showing like how amazing I was at makeup. It was all about me and trying to be like perfect. And now it's not about me at all. It's about the audience and satisfying their needs and speaking to them and helping them. And the more flaws you show in yourself, the more, discoloration under the eyes, wrinkles, lines, things that are happening as we age, the more authenticity, the stronger the connection.
Yes.
You almost want to think about it like making a friend in real life. Like, when you meet someone and they're so like, you're like, oh, I don't like that person. They're like fake and like stuck up.
Yeah.
And then you meet someone and they're like all over the place and they're dropping things. They have no makeup on. They're like, oh my God, you got to see this. And you like instantly love them so much.
Yeah.
I think that was the biggest difference. I stopped trying to be so perfect and I just started being more myself and talking to women like they were like my besties that were
Yeah.
coming over for coffee.
And it's interesting that you say that because you work in the beauty industry and it's an industry that a lot of people focus on like the outside, on the appearance, but I don't think people think about the fact that when viewers are watching your video, they just want to connect with you, they want to understand you. And yes, you can be beautiful, but we're not beautiful all the time, you know. And
Yes.
I think that's the beauty of like showing like, of what you do. Actually, you show like that you can be beautiful, you can become beautiful, you can use makeup as an art, but at the same time you can just be yourself, and then and find beauty in it. So that's really cool that you do that. And one thing that I noticed, I think in the beauty industry, if we look back maybe in 2015, 16, I feel like things were a bit different, right, in the industry. I
Yes.
think the focus changed a lot. From when you started in the industry, did you notice anything different with your sponsors, with your other peers in the industry? Is there anything that you noticed that shifted a lot?
I have noticed a big difference from 7 years ago in beauty specifically. For one, I felt like back then, the biggest creators were the aspirational creators. So they were the people you wanted to be. And they had the most amazing houses and the luxury handbags and perfect
Yes.
skin. And they were so gorgeous, like you couldn't stop watching them. And
Yes.
when I started YouTube, that's what I felt like I needed to be. And it's like the filters were cranked to the point where you have not a single pore. Like you look like a plastic doll because of these darn filters, right?
Yeah.
And I think as time went on, people got really tired of seeing that over. It's like the same thing over and over. It was so
It's
unrelatable.
unhealthy, right?
It's so unhealthy and it creates so much anxiety and comparison. And it's not real either. It's not like you're comparing yourself to a supermodel who is really actually like so beautiful and real, like, and even they look like human beings, but you were like, it was like a fake reality. And I think people got really tired of that, like the intense filters and promoting the makeup. And the makeup looks insanely amazing because it's just a filter. And then you go and you buy the makeup and you're like, it doesn't look like that at all on me. Why is that? Why doesn't and so there's been a big evolution of like exactly that, being authentic and taking the filters out, like turning the light down so that your face isn't like a plastic doll.
When you first posted on YouTube, what was it like for you mentally? Like, were you checking your comments all the time? Were there comments that were actually helpful? Were there like a lot of hate comments? What was your experience like, and how did it affect you?
Yeah, you have to be careful when you're becoming a creator to not seek too much external validation because I think that's why people quit. The comments and the engagement becomes super addictive and it will start to connect to your self-worth. So if a video does well, you feel amazing that week, and if a video does badly, you like hate yourself and you question, I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not good enough, I'm not, and you have to really, if you're a younger creator watching this, you have to like disconnect the engagement from self-worth because engagement is engagement and self-worth is self-worth and they should not go together. I definitely struggled with it. The comments, for the most part, because I speak to an older audience, they're very, very supportive. But I know if you have a younger audience, you can get a lot of like trolling and hate comments. Um, One thing that I had to do when I became a bigger creator and I hired a team is one of the girls on my team logs in before I log in every day, and she filters those super mean comments and gets rid of them because you can read 1,000 nice comments, but you'll only remember the one mean one.
Yeah, that's actually really sad, right?
It's human psychology. That's like how our brain is wired. It's tribal mentality and needing to feel safe, and community is safety in human evolution, right? So if you feel rejected, you feel extreme anxiety from that rejection, and you'll remember it because you want to feel safe. And so it's natural to like feel hurt by these comments, but I was finding it was starting to alter the way I was creating content because I started getting so self-conscious about the things like the mean comments. And so now I don't see them anymore, and it's great.
That's how it should be, you know? Like, if people are taking time of their days just to comment bad things on your posts, like, are they really happy? Like, they should do something to be happy to, like, put themselves out there, create content. Because, like, you're actually being brave enough. Because not a lot of people are brave enough to put themselves out there for this. I don't think human beings are prepared to have like millions of people talking about them and having an opinion about their lives. And I'm pretty sure it's hard for you, especially like, how do you filter your personal life and your professional life when you're creating your content? Because when it comes to content creation, I feel like you need to connect with your audience, you need to be relatable, so you need to share a little bit more. What is your experience like with your audience, like this parasocial relationship that you have with them, and how do you create some sort of barrier there, like a shield to protect yourself when needed?
That's a great question. There's a lot of beauty creators where the internet knows their whole entire life. Like they're very transparent, and I am not that creator. Like my content is more about the audience's needs and helping them navigate their needs as they change and evolve and age and new products and confusion. So I think they see me more as like a consultant and friend, but I don't like let them in 100%. My kids are never on the channel. I actually started a family channel with my kids recently, but it's just something fun. It's not like they don't know me. They know me and there's a relationship, but I'm not. There are some beauty creators where literally their entire life is recorded, and that's not me. That's not my channel. I respect those creators, but I just couldn't do it. Like it'd be too much for me, I
To be
think.
honest, I feel like things shifted a little bit now, especially in the beauty community. Because if we look back from when it started, it was all about drama and it was kind of like a reality TV show on YouTube. And now I think things changed a little bit. And now I feel like people are being more cautious and, rightfully so. So, back then, did you make mistakes of like oversharing that you noticed, like, hey, maybe I shouldn't?
No, I've never made that mistake.
That's great because I'm pretty much I haven't created much content, but the few that I've created, I have overshared. So
Oh,
it's
have you?
yeah, I tend to overshare. So it's great that I can, hear this from you and learn from you and not do
I think
that. But one
I think
thing,
it's okay to do that if that's your goal. I'm 40, so it doesn't come naturally to me because I didn't grow up with social media. Like it didn't exist. So I think for the younger generation, like social media is almost like a part of your reality. Whereas for my generation, it's like an extension of your reality. And so I think that, yeah, the younger creators are more likely to do that because it's so like normal to them. But for me, like it doesn't feel natural.
one thing that I want to know that I always ask creators when I talk to them is, do you remember like a specific video that actually made you really big on social media? Was there like a specific day that everything changed in your life?
Yes, there's always that video.
Do you
The
remember?
star video, the breakthrough video.
Yeah.
Okay, there were two. So the first one, I had really bad alopecia, which is hair loss. It was really bad on the sides here, and I had always covered it and hid it forever. And then finally, I made a video called My Hair Loss Story. And the thumbnail was me onto the side, and like half my head was bald. And it was just like a really close up of my face profile with like no hair here. And it was very shocking thumbnail. And I just sat down. It was a talking head video, super simple. And I explained like why I have alopecia, how I got it, and how it makes me feel. It was like very simple. That video went viral like immediately, and I got a huge group of people come over who wanted like hair loss talk, hair loss advice. So for like a year, my entire channel was about hair loss. I don't know if you know that. It was really crazy actually. For a whole year, it was like I ended up getting a hair transplant, so I had a hair transplant vlog and then follow-ups and then things that can help alopecia. Like all the videos were like tips about hair loss because of that video that went viral, and my entire audience became a hair loss audience. So that was crazy. And it was actually really hard to get out of that niche because I kind of got stuck there for a while.
That's what I was gonna ask you actually. How did you get out of it and went back into makeup?
It was really strategic. So it was so hard because after you make 100 videos about hair loss, you're like, what else can I say about this topic? Like we've done everything. Yeah, so every video that I made that didn't have a hair loss focus would tank 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10. So what I ended up doing was thinking, okay, what does a person who has hair loss also have that's not hair loss? And it's usually thin or fine hair. So I pivoted and started making content like the best haircuts for thin, fine hair. The best the best way to get fullness in fine hair. And then I was able to like shift the boat into like hairstyling. So once I was able to move the boat into like the hairdressing world, then I doubled down on that and started expanding. The best ways to, 5 tips for getting the best out of shampooing your hair, or the best drugstore hair products that actually work. And I started like expanding in hair. So then for another year or maybe even 2 years, my entire channel was only about hair. And it spoke from my experience as a hairstylist. And then I was getting a lot of questions on my makeup in the video. And so I'm like, I wonder if it would work if I did a makeup video, because I am a makeup artist too. Actually, I was a makeup artist first. I was a hairstylist second. So I'm 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 almost more skilled in makeup than I am in hair, which is funny because it was the opposite way. But anyway, so then I made some videos on makeup to test, and they did really well because that same audience that was watching the hair content was also interested in my makeup. So I was able to like move the boat that way.
When did you realize that your audience was mature women, women over 40? Was it strategic? Was that the audience that you wanted to build, or was it something a little bit more organic?
Okay, so that's that's a great question. So, speaking of those breakthrough videos, my hair loss story was the first breakthrough video, and then makeup mistakes mature women are making was my second breakthrough video. And the reason that came about, so after I shifted into hair and then I shifted into makeup, I was still working a lot in the industry. And I started becoming really well known in the industry, like the professional industry, as a makeup artist that was really good at doing makeup on older women because the techniques are quite different. And a lot of younger artists are really intimidated by more mature skin because things don't look the same when you apply them on a 20-year-old versus on a 70-year-old, right? So then my team, I had a team that I hired that would come with me on these jobs, and my team would always be like, Gabby, there's, mature mother of or grandma of the bride who's 80. Can you do her makeup? Because I'm like nervous to do it. So I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And then I got really obsessed with this niche. And then I became like known as the woman who was like amazing at doing makeup on older skin. And so because of that, I fell in love with that. It was my favorite client. I was booked solid with women over 50. Anyone who was a mother of the bride in this region was coming to see me, and it was awesome. And then I made this video, like I said, on these makeup mistakes these women are making because they'd come into my studio and they'd show me how they do their makeup, and I'd be like, okay, if you do this instead, this will stop happening. You're noticing this is happening under your eyes with concealer. If you do this instead, you won't get that effect anymore. And so it was like, instead of this, try this. Instead of this, try this. And I'm like, I should make a video about that. So that's what I did. And that video got like 2 million views.
Whoa,
And in that video, when I launched that video, I got 30,000 subscribers.
that's crazy. Do you feel like when you actually started focused on the audience that you have now, back then, do you think they were underserved
Yes.
when it comes to content?
Yes.
How do you feel about it now? Is it still like too niche, or do you think there's more people doing what you're doing?
No, since then, I think the reason that video went viral was exactly that reason, because every makeup artist on the platform was doing looks on themselves and they were like 20, or looks on models that were young, because those are very impressive. When you do an amazing makeup look on someone who's 25, it's very like impressive on camera, right? So I brought in these women that weren't models. They were like my neighbors and my friends and my clients. Like I'd say, I'll do your makeup for free for your event if you let me film it, you know? And they were just normal women. And so I showed normal women with normal problems who didn't look like a supermodel. And that was very different on YouTube. Like no one was doing that. And I think that's why the channel grew. Like after that, it like really shot up. Um, so it was very underserved, but now it's different, because at the time, the only other person that was on the platform doing like women over 50 stuff was not the only person, but the biggest person was Angie Hot and Flashy. She's become like a really dear friend of mine, actually. And now there's a bunch of creators over 50, over 40 that are doing beauty content. And I love it because they're awesome. These
That's
creators are really
actually
awesome.
awesome. When talking about community, like when did you realize that you were not only growing like views and followers and subscribers, but you were actually building a community with your peers or with your audience? What was it like, and how do you actually build that community? Because one thing is going viral, another thing is actually establishing yourself in the industry, right?
I know. The hard thing is that everyone wants virality, but virality can be a curse because it can get you sensationalized content often goes viral, and it will get you a whole bunch of people that you might not want to serve. Like my hair loss story, for example, is a really good example. It's not that I don't appreciate those viewers, and I still have them, but I didn't want to only make content about alopecia, And so you become trapped in this loop when a video goes viral and you can't escape it, because every video that you post that's not about that won't do well. And, because that core audience won't watch it, or they won't click on it, will signal to the algorithm that it's not a good video, and then it won't get pushed out. And then, so even if it is a good video, if it's on the wrong channel, it won't actually be served to the audience that you want it to be served to, because your core audience doesn't like it. So you're kind of in this race of trying to only create content that your core audience will like. I hope that makes sense. It's a
Yes,
bit
it
technical.
does. It actually does. A lot of,
Yeah.
yeah, because a lot of creators they try to appeal to everyone, right? And I feel like you're a great example of why being like more specific actually works really well.
I think sometimes if you're talking to everyone, you're talking to no one. The easiest and the fastest way to grow on social media, I think, is to really understand exactly who you're talking to and serve them what they need. And so back to your question of how I built community, I think it was because of that, because I understood them really well and I kept giving them what they needed. I'm very active in the comments. I spend a lot of time every day responding to comments. We have a newsletter every week that goes out to our core members. I go live a lot and interact with them, and say their name. Like when I go live, I say their name. Like one woman who's always on my live stream is Lori, and I'll say, Lori, I see you. And we have like a friendship. And I think that's important to build that.
Really important because this nowadays we're talking a lot about parasocial relationship, but to which extent is it parasocial? Because I don't know, what is it like for you, like are you recognized when you're like walking around town? Has it happened, and what is the interaction like?
Yeah, it's really funny. I have been recognized. It's really weird, to be honest, because I'm very, very, very normal and down to earth, and I'm not very fancy. Like I think sometimes when you see me online with the lights and the set and like the makeup, it's so fancy. And then when you see me in real life, like I'm with my kids, my hair's in a ponytail, I have no makeup on, I'm carrying like 15 grocery bags. Like I'm very like normal. Um, so they're always so sweet. Like whenever anyone recognizes me, and they're always so, so sweet. But it's always funny because sometimes they look at me with like star eyes, like, and I'm like, don't like admire me because I'm like not like I'm very normal.
What was it like for you in the beginning, like getting recognized? Is it scary, or were you always just open to it? Were you anxious about it?
I wasn't anxious about it, and it definitely wasn't scary. To be honest, like really honest, since we were talking about authenticity, I felt self-conscious. I felt like people would be disappointed if they like saw me in real life because I'm not that special, or if they saw me without the fancy camera and the lights, like they'd be like, "Oh, you're like not that pretty," or I don't know. I felt like self-conscious more than anything else.
I understand that, but what would you say was actually the biggest challenge you faced since you actually blew up on YouTube?
Oh, I have a good answer to this. The biggest challenge is growth, like extreme fast growth. It doesn't last forever. It you kind of have this rise and then you'll still grow, but like at a smaller pace. And I think what I said before is you have to be really careful to not connect your self-worth to your analytics. My biggest struggle is like the months that I don't perform as well, or new subscriber rate is down, or views are down, not feeling like extremely anxious or even depressed because of it. Like really trying to disconnect analytics from self-worth. That's the hardest part of being a creator. And I know so many creators that struggle with that.
Are you the one taking care of your analytics and checking it all now, or do you have people doing that for you to prevent those kind of things from happening?
I do have a team. I have an amazing YouTube team, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't check it every morning.
I mean, it's human, right? It's
Yeah,
was there a moment that you felt stuck or thought about quitting YouTube?
so many moments. Which time? Yeah, at the beginning it was really hard because I was exhausted, running all my businesses and having little babies. And my husband's an engineer. He's really successful. It's not like my husband's a stay-at-home dad that could manage the pickups and drop-offs and meals and sick days and doctor's appointments. Like a lot of that was on me as well as on my husband, but I didn't have a nanny or any help. And so it was super hard. One way that I pushed through it and that I encourage like whoever's watching this or listening to this to do is you have to set micro goals that aren't too overwhelming. My husband and I would sit down and I'd say, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. Like I'm dying. This is crazy. And he'd say, okay, let's set a goal. If by the end of this month you haven't gotten, you know, 200 new subscribers, then you can think about quitting because then maybe it's not worth it. Maybe it is a waste of time. But if in 3 weeks you did get those people, that's 50 more than last month, which means that you are growing. Because he was so convinced that this was going to work for me. Like, he was like, you just have to you're 100% going to make it. And I was like, I don't think so. He's like, you just have to give it time. Because he thought about it, and I think about it like that now, is like when you're a creator and you're making videos on a new channel, you're planting seeds in a garden, but all of the seeds are under the soil because the algorithm hasn't had an opportunity to understand who your audience is, and the audience hasn't discovered it yet. So you have to put all of the seeds under the soil and then let the sun come in and let the rain come in. When things start like growing from the soil, it all grows together and everything will explode. But oftentimes people will quit when they're still planting seeds.
Was there ever a moment that you were like, I don't know what my next video should be like? I'm completely out of ideas. I'm burnt out.
Never. So many people have asked me this. I
Really?
have too many ideas. It's like a problem. I have like 300 ideas.
Oh my, that's crazy. So like, do you think like right now, do you have enough content planned in your head for the next year, let's say?
Easily, maybe 3 years.
That's insane. And how do you manage that? Because I feel like if I did that, I would have like so much anxiety because I would be thinking about content that I would be putting out in 6 months from now instead of thinking about the present moment. How do you manage that mentally? How do you organize yourself?
Well, first off, you won't run out of ideas because you have to look at your real-time analytics to see what's happening on the channel. Like, what are viewers watching right now, and what are they finding interesting right now? And how can I dive deeper into that topic? So, if you have a video that's number one in the last 90 days, a lot of viewers are currently on the channel for that video. So, how can you like extend that video? So, that's really easy, right? So, in terms of like day to day, I can always think of a video because of what's going on the channel. In terms of organizing, this is something I had to talk about with my team because we were scheduling ideas because I have 1,001 ideas like 3 to 6 months in advance. Like every week was booked. I'm going to film this and I'm going to film this. I'm going to film this. But what ended up happening is it started hurting the channel because I wasn't looking at the real-time analytics and moving with the audience. You have to be fluid with your audience. If you're only creating your ideas, you're creating again for yourself, not for your audience. And you will end up with a roadblock because you're making too many videos that maybe the audience doesn't want to watch, but you want to make. And if you're treating it as like a business, you have to make videos that the audience wants to watch.
Is there something that you've done in the past that worked really well, but you feel like if you created the same content now, you wouldn't have the same result?
Oh my God, that is like that's an amazing question. I think now, if I started making hair loss content, my audience would be like, "What the hell is this?" Because it's so far removed. I moved the boat so far from that island that there's like a few people left over here, but the rest of them are like, "This doesn't apply to us."
And what do you think actually makes people trust you? Like when it comes to your content, into your advice in the beauty industry, how do you build that trust with your audience?
I think a big part of why people trust me is because they can see my results. I bring in a lot of models that are real women, and they can see how these women look when they come into the studio, how they look when I take their makeup off, and they can see my hands physically change them to the end result. And I think watching the process and understanding like what I'm saying and why I'm doing what I'm doing, they can see the transformation. So that I think that's a large part why women trust me because they physically see me execute it. I'm not just talking without showing. Everything I say, I show. And I even tell my editors that. Like every time I explain something, you have to pair it with the B-roll that shows it. I
Yeah.
should never be talking without showing.
I mean, you're very authentic, so I think that helps when make people that helps making people trust you with your content. That's really important. I think just showing this process just show authenticity a lot, which is really important. One thing that I'm very curious about in the beauty community is when it comes to making money, is sponsorship the best way to make money? Because I know AdSense is not really the best option, right, for any creator. I feel like. What was it like for you? Like, was it actually creating your own business and like bringing more people into your own like brand or partnership, or was it more like sponsorships? What was the process for you when it comes to that?
Okay, so I have to stop you there because um, when your channel is doing well, and if you have the right audience, which means older, from the US, with spending capital, AdSense is extremely lucrative.
That's the first time I hear a creator on the channel saying that AdSense worked for them. That's really interesting, actually. Do you remember how many views did you have to achieve to get that much money?
Yeah, between 3 to 3.5 million.
That's a lot. And
Yeah.
what what was it like for you? Was it in the beginning that that happened? Was it the moment that you were actually like completely surprised about the amount of money that you could make?
Yeah, it was really surprising because, yeah, for 3 years, I made like almost no money at all. And I was working like a dog. And yeah, it's when that channel hit 100,000. I'm not saying that, I don't want to say that because then creators are going to want, like, be so desperate to get to 100,000, they'll get there and nothing will change. But it was a moment for me where I started being taken seriously. And so because I started being taken seriously by the audience and by the sponsors, everything just came up so much. So the views started coming up, and then the views, because I have the right audience, right? Because you need the right audience in terms of geographical location, age, all of that will impact how much you get paid on AdSense revenue. If you have an audience that are all children, for example, children don't convert from ads to sales directly because children have to tell parents, parents have to buy the thing. There's like not a direct line of conversion. Whereas where the people who I speak to have money, women that are 50 years old and from the US, they have money. So when an advertiser speaks to them and they like the ad, they can directly buy the product. So I think because of that, my RPM went up like crazy. Yeah, and so then my AdSense was super high, and it's still really lucrative. I can pay all of my employees their salaries through AdSense revenue alone. So, you can't laugh at AdSense. It's a good income stream.
That's crazy. That's the first time I hear that because most people, when I see them, like I talk to a lot of creators every single day, and one thing that I notice is always like they're always worried about having the perfect sponsorships and making sure they're making enough money. And for a lot of creators, AdSense is really not the best. It's not the income that they expect it to be, and a lot of people they feel a little bit discouraged when they see like how much money they actually make with AdSense. And I have talked with creators in the beauty community that targeted like a younger demographic, and for them they were not seeing the result that you were seeing. And after you explained it, it makes so much sense why it worked so well for you. Do you, if you were to think right now, do you have any other niches that you have in mind that would be as profitable when it comes to AdSense?
Yeah, so I have a friend and they are a family. They have a family channel and they do a lot of challenges together. So we built a secret room and like these really over the top, like we built a tree house in the like they're challenges.
Yeah.
And it's very, Mr. Beast, like super fun, like loud and experience, and then moments of, heartfelt moments. It's a whole story, their videos. They showed me their back end once when we were hanging out together, and they make over $100,000 a month in AdSense.
That's insane. Do you know like
They
average amount of views that they get?
they get at least 1 million views per video. So they're definitely doing many millions of views a month, and they're making a ton of money, and they make a lot in sponsorships too. Um, I think going into the field, okay, this is one niche that I am starting to explore that I absolutely love, and not only for the money, just because it's super fun. It's like the Hope Scope, Mia Maples, Sophia Nygaard. That whole niche is like I bought all the weirdest products on TikTok. Um, Hafu Go, he's another Canadian creator who I've hung out with before, who's doing super well too. Um, I think that niche, because you're speaking, when we were saying if you speak to everyone, you speak to no one, I think that's true in educational content. But when it comes to entertainment content, the broader you can make it, the better you're going to do. So even Nick Giovanni, Mark Rober, like everyone wants to watch that content, an 8-year-old and an 85-year-old. And I think because of that, you get such a huge audience and you're getting so many views and so many subscribers that you can do very well in that niche.
When it comes to sponsorships, how do they choose them? Like, Are there like opportunities that come up to you and you're like, this is like really good money, but I feel like this product is not really it, and I don't really want to promote this? How do they approach you, and how do you analyze if it's a good sponsorship or not?
Yeah, that's a great question because it's really, when you're a new creator and you really need the money, it is so hard to decline it because some of the sponsorships, it's like, the rate will be what you made at your old job working for 3 months full time. So it seems
Yeah.
crazy to decline like a 1 minute thing. I am really, really lucky. I'm in a really good position, and I don't blame other creators for taking sponsorships that maybe they didn't love the product. I don't blame them because they're just trying to survive in this
Yeah.
business. Um, because my husband is so successful, it puts a lot less financial pressure on me, so I can be super, super picky.
Yeah.
So when a sponsorship comes in, I have a manager. It will come directly to his email because all of my socials are linked to his email. He'll vet the products and he'll send it over and say, have you tried this? If I have tried it, I'll accept or decline. If I haven't tried it, they'll send over a PR box. I require a 3 month minimum trial period because when it comes to beauty, you have to use it for a long time to
Yeah.
understand whether it's effective. I'll test for 3 months, and at the end of the trial period, I'll either love it or like, eh. If it's eh, I'll reject the sponsorship. If I love it, I'll accept the sponsorship.
You're creating content but spending hours editing, this is for you. VidPros is a video editing service built specifically for creators who want to grow without getting stuck in post production. You got a dedicated editor who learns your style, your pacing, and your brand. No generic edits, no guessing. You film your content, upload it, and your editor handles everything: cuts, captions, color grading, sound design, and even short form clips. Everything is delivered through Google Drive link and frame.io so you can leave feedback with timestamps and requests and limited revisions. We offer a $100 trial week with 10 hours of editing. Go to vidpros.com and start your trial today. Stop editing and start scaling. What is the biggest company that you have worked with, or one that you always remember that you were really happy that you were able to get that sponsorship?
Yeah, recently, okay, this is really recent. I just signed the sponsorship like 2 weeks ago. I signed a full year sponsorship with L'Oreal.
Whoa, that's
I
amazing.
know.
That's really big.
It's really big. They flew me to Montreal a few months ago to consult with their brands. They brought me in and they brought in all of the, like, I think it was like 40 or 50 different L'Oreal brands, the execs. And they just asked me questions about, what do you think would be the best way to promote to this audience? And how should we do? And so I went, they brought me in as a consultant. They found me through YouTube, emailed James, my manager, and then they asked me to come in. They flew me down. And that was amazing because I'm like, are you kidding me? How does L'Oreal care what I think?
It's a dream.
It's a dream. And then they really enjoyed that. So then they reached out and they booked, yeah, a whole year's worth of sponsorships. And that's the dream for the creator because for one, it's L'Oreal. The products are phenomenal. I'm talking about them anyway. So now I have a baseline salary that I can rely on. So I know this year I'm going to make at least this, and everything else is bonus. And it's like less pressure.
When it comes to those deals, like to anyone watching and they're like about to get their first deal, what's how do you behave in like a meeting like that, and how do you set your boundaries, and like what is realistic that like so you don't really get ripped off and you show your value to the brand?
Oh, I have such a good answer to this question. So I'm going to be real. When a brand sees you, they see dollar signs for them.
Yeah.
Okay. That's just the reality. So if you want to be taken seriously, you have to speak the same language as them. So that means financial language. So what we did is everything that I link is through an affiliate portal, and it's through ShopMy typically, but there's other affiliate portals that you can connect with to get affiliate links. So every time I do a makeup tutorial and all of the links are in the description, they're all through ShopMy. The reason I do that, for one, it's another form of income, which is great, but that's not even the main reason. The main reason is that I have data. And so what I do is I'll take that year's worth of data, I download it and put it in a spreadsheet. So I can say, if I go into a meeting with L'Oreal and they want to pay me X amount for the sponsorship, I can say, okay, this year I sold $250,000 worth of your products. And I can tell you that with proof. And here's the proof. And I'll send you the spreadsheet. Every time I talk about one of your products, on average, I get 300 clicks on that link. And that's only people clicking on the link, not people going to the store and buying it. So that's a small percentage of what's actually happening in the background when I talk about a product. Because I know on average I'll sell this much through this link and you'll get your return of investment in 5 days, this is the amount that I'm worth. So you have to know, like, you have to basically prove to the brand that within this amount of days, you're going to make your return of investment back. So that's why I'm worth this rate. Because at first, when I was a smaller creator, especially, brands would be like, you're not worth that much. Like someone with 3 million subscribers, um, that's their rate. And I'm like, yeah, but I have numbers and I know I'll sell that and I can prove it. And so then those rates became normal for me because I was converting, and conversion is really important to brands.
Yeah. What makes like what separates a good partnership to a bad one for you?
A good partnership is when the brand allows me to share their product in a way that makes sense for my audience. A bad partnership is when a brand micromanages it and gives me like a million speaking points that I know is irrelevant to my audience. So, for example, when I'm doing skincare um, sponsorships, oftentimes the skincare people are really focused on the ingredients because that's like their whole world. But if I'm going to name off 15 ingredients that the audience has no idea what it is or what it does, I'm going to lose them. My audience cares about results, not about ingredients. So it makes more sense for me to talk about something in like a before and after. This is how my skin looked before I used this. This is how it looked after. You can see how glowy it is. Oh my God, I can't believe I have no more hyperpigmentation. But then if I start talking about niacinamide and volufillin and retinol, like I lose people, like they're bored. And so that's the hardest part because sometimes brands will be so focused on they're like, you have to hit every point. And I'm like, if I do it like this, I guarantee you, you'll get less sales.
Have you ever had like big partnerships that came up to you and then you were like, I don't think this aligns with my audience, so I have to pass, even though it's a great
Oh,
opportunity?
100 times.
How do you feel about it? Like, is it hard to say no if it's something
No.
like really big? Really?
When I was smaller, it was harder to say no because it felt really flattering
Yeah.
to be asked. But I don't feel that at all anymore. Like now it's almost there's like too many. So it's like that sounds so egotistical, but I mean it in the
No,
sense of
I
like,
get what you mean. Yeah. And also trust is important, right? With your audience. And I also like just bringing that to the question too, and I'm sorry for cutting you off a little bit.
no.
How do you think trust connects with monetization? Like how do you think it goes side by side when it comes to that?
It's completely correlated because the audience will buy from the person that they trust that they don't think is like a used car salesman, you know?
Yeah.
And I think if you recommend things that aren't good and the audience spends their money on it, their hard-earned money, and they quickly realize that it doesn't have quality, you will lose them forever. So keeping the trust in your audience is the priority because you can have a short-term paycheck, but if you lose half your audience trust, long term it's going to affect you.
And at what point did you start thinking strategically about your business? Because from what you told me, you have this new line that you're starting, your new brand, Mature Beauty.
Yeah.
What was the process like for you, and what was your mentality like getting into this?
Yeah, I resisted starting a brand for a long time because I knew the work that it would entail. And being a creator is already more than a full-time job. And then adding product formulator and packaging and operations, I felt like that was going to be too much. But it got to the point where I started to see that it was the next logical step. Like it didn't make sense for me to promote all of these products and to put so much of my heart and time into promoting all these new releases and like when I could do it better. Like I knew with my experience and the amount of time I put into this world that I could formulate things that worked better for this age demographic. My brand is called Mature Beauty and it's for the women over 40. And I'm like, if I put half the time that I put into promoting all these other products into developing something that actually really works, it just makes sense. It was just like the next tile in the line, I almost like I had to do it.
Yeah. How much time did you put into this? How much research is actually put into something like this before launching?
It's been crazy. It's been 2 years. And that's with my business partner who put in a lot of time. I focus mainly on formulation, tone selection, so shade selection, branding and packaging and storytelling, photo shoots, all of that. And he focused on all of the operational parts because the operations is like a whole other beast. Fulfillment, 3PLs, lining updates, all of the lawyer stuff, terms of like it's just a lot. So it was 2 years that we've been pouring into it, and we still haven't launched.
That's insane. Like when thinking about like you were saying like about the formula, the way that you were explaining things, I can see that you know a lot about what you're doing, that you understand a lot. Did you study a lot before coming up with those formulas? What was it like? Is Can young people wear this makeup too, or is it something that you would advise mostly people over 40 wearing it? What is the process like, and what makes it different from creating a brand that is just like a regular brand that you're gonna find anywhere?
Yeah, so everyone can wear it. It's top, top, top of the line quality in terms of formulation and everything, packaging even. Not that that totally matters in this sense, but everyone can wear it. But I formulated it specifically for the issues that my clients have. So we're starting with a line of eyeliners. They're right here. They're 5 eyeliners. They're beautiful. And one thing that we did is we noticed that, well, I noticed that when I was using other people's eyeliners on these more mature faces, because of the little wrinkles and the skin laxity and the hooding that was happening later in life, the liners are so waxy, there's such a high wax consistency that it was skipping in the lines and creating these little ridges. And it was very hard to blend and it looked very harsh. And so women, as they get older, they lose lash line definition and their eyes start looking smaller. So they want definition, but the thing that was providing definition wasn't doing it in a way that was flattering. And so we created this really buttery formula that glides onto the lash line beautifully, but can be smoked out. And so we also developed an angle brush on the tip of it, which is really rare to find. So they can apply their liner, they can soften the pigment, and then it dries down and becomes waterproof because that's another issue with smudging with mature skin. So yeah, we took all of their problems. Everyone can wear it, but I think the woman who's more mature will really find it life changing because it solves what the other liners couldn't solve.
How many products are you coming out with right now?
We're starting with this collection of liners. There's 5 colors, and then we're gonna see how it goes. And then we'll start developing our next things as we move along.
Do you know what the next thing is, and can you share or not yet?
I don't know to be totally transparent. I think if this goes well, we'll expand the color choices. Um, I think we would probably go back because I've spent so long formulating like pencil formulas. I think we would then move into other pencil formulas like eyebrow pencils, lip liners, and then we would move into what the audience wants next. But I think we'll stick with the pencil range for a bit until we like get our bearings and we'll see where we can web out.
What do you think is the most challenging product to create?
Foundation. I
Yes.
know that for a fact.
I imagined that. As I was asking the question, I was like, it's probably foundation. It makes sense to be. It's just like you see brands now, and it's it's important to create like different tones, and I think it's so hard to make sure that those products work really well in all types of skins and all skin colors, and I think it's a lot of responsibility, right?
Yeah, and beyond that, that's like the baseline if you're
Yeah.
super rich. Beyond that, like you need all of the undertones and all of the gradients of shades, right? So from very light to very dark, plus all the undertones, cool, neutral, warm, olive. But then beyond that, you have to think about operations. So the minimum order quantity when you're buying something in cosmetics is typically 5,000 units. So if you're launching 40 shades at 5,000 units per shade, if you're doing minimum order quantity, you're looking at $1 million in stock or more. So trying to get $1 million with no guarantee it will sell is really risky. That's why no one starts with foundation.
What is the biggest challenge that you've noticed since you got into this?
The biggest challenge for sure is that I'm self-funded and I didn't take a loan. So I saved all my money to do this. And the costs accumulate like you wouldn't believe. And it's just more and more and more and more costs that you're not anticipating without any guarantee that you're going to make your return of investment. That is for sure the scariest and hardest part.
Do you think every creator should actually start their own business? What is it too risky? Because from what you're saying, you're actually very brave and very disciplined from creating all of this. Do you think everyone should do this, or is it something risky?
I don't think everyone should do it. I think it's very risky. I think it depends on your risk aversion, like the type of person you are and your risk aversion, and also your love of business. Because if you don't like managing operations and you are just a creative, not just, because there's something amazing about being a creative. And most of who I am, 90%, is a creative. I like creating things. I do not like sitting in an office for 12 hours managing, you know, supply chain. It is life sucking. And so if you are a creative that does not enjoy business, I don't think you should do it. I have a business partner that does that other side. And even then, when I get sucked into it, which of course I'm going to as the CEO, I hate it. So it's hard. Like it really is hard.
What advice would you give someone who's starting a YouTube channel and starting their own business, and or planning on starting their business from their channel?
The biggest advice I can give is that you need to delay gratification. I have a psychology degree, and there was a psychological study done about children and marshmallows. And so all these children were put in a room alone, so one child alone in a room. And the researcher goes into the room and puts a marshmallow on the table and says, "You cannot eat this until I come back." They leave the room and close the door. The children that didn't eat the marshmallow were like everyone was tracked over their lifespan. And the children that didn't eat the marshmallow did significantly better in life than the children who couldn't delay gratification and ate the marshmallow when the researcher was gone. When it comes to building a YouTube channel, when it comes to building a business with YouTube or without, you have to be the kid that doesn't eat the marshmallow. Because if you're looking for instant gratification, you will 100% quit. You need to be okay with a very long span of working without reward.
Yes. And my last question, because I know I've been annoying you for over an hour now,
You're
where
not in it.
where do you see the beauty community in the next, let's say, 5 years? Where do you think things are going, and where do you want to be with your company in 5 years from now?
I think there's going to be a lot more inclusivity when it comes to ages. Um, in the beauty community, we're already seeing a rise of the more mature influencer, which is amazing. I'm just so excited for everyone entering this and growing and scaling. I think we're going to see a huge, even more increase on authenticity and removing all of the beauty things and really showing ourselves as we really are and being okay with that, accepting uh, the changes that come with, life. So I think that that's going to be amazing for the community. And I think as AI is growing, I think that the actual humans are craving authenticity more than ever and less of that perfection. Um, in terms of my business, I really hope that I'm able to expand the line and grow and be successful. And one of the things I really pride myself on is being able to hire people and give them a really great life, a really flexible life with good income. Yeah, so I hope that it grows enough that we can bring more people on the team and give them a really good life and a really great job.
Yeah.
So we'll see where it goes.
That's awesome. I'm really excited for you. And thank you so much for saying yes to doing this. And right now, if there's anything you'd like to promote, please feel free. Have your moment.
No, if anything, you guys subscribe to this channel. They're growing it here. They have some great guests coming on. So I just want to promote you and tell everyone to come and subscribe if you like this video. If you learned something, subscribe to this channel.
And I want to promote you. Subscribe to Gabi, guys, and buy her products. She's amazing and she's doing amazing. Honestly, Gabi, thank you for doing this.
Of course, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
If there's one thing to take from this video, it's this. Growth isn't luck. It's understanding your audience better than anyone else. Subscribe, drop a comment, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.